essentially a champagne and caviar concierge, bringing the world of champagne to enthusiasts and collectors and those that just are curious to learn more in various platforms. So whether that is through a small champagne tasting in someone's private home, to a corporate setting, maybe, a happy hour or a client gathering, to bringing people to Champagne, France on, very exclusive insider tours. So basically, I am obsessed with champagne, and
How did you become so? You gotta tell us, like, what?
yeah, it wasn't a direct path. It's not, I wasn't someone who decided that I loved wine and champagne at an early age or a young age, say, post graduation, and decided to study it or worked in restaurants. It did not come that way at all to me.
Or was it a part of your table? Because, again, as you
Yeah.
learn and grow around the world, for a lot of my European friends, it was just, wine, champagne was a part of their family celebration, even as a young child.
So no, champagne was definitely not a part of my life at all. What happened was I would say my first encounter really with champagne was in my early 20s. I had moved from my small town here. So I'm originally from Punta Gorda, and I went to Florida State after graduation. I moved to Sarasota. And then I had the
Sorry about that
opportunity.
game last night. Just saying. This is supposed to be a timeless conversation, but anyway.
No worries, no worries. So yeah, so then I had the opportunity to go to.
Oh wait, Florida State, not Florida.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
yeah,
know.
go.
It's fine. I was in we were at our clubhouse, so I was watching the
Yeah,
game, and it's Florida, but either way, it's,
yes,
we keep an eye out
yes,
of
yes, yes,
everything.
yes.
But yeah, I had the opportunity to go to Asia. And so in Japan, because of the food and their appreciation for French culture, you have access to champagne quite easily through the restaurants and the bars and things like that. So I started to gravitate towards champagne already because it was easier to access. And I've never been a very big drinker at all. I never drank alcohol, or I really enjoyed it ever until I started to drink champagne regularly, or what I thought was champagne at the time. I didn't know anything about it. And then when I got married, my husband's from Ireland. We moved there, and I had the opportunity to work out of London for several years for a fashion brand, and I was traveling 5 days a week for that brand in the different countries and cities of Europe. And so I had the opportunity to really engage in the food and wine culture in Europe. So my goal every time I was there was to eat with locals and to order the local food, the food and wine, and to really realize that Europeans, it is a part of their table, it is a part of their culture, which it wasn't of mine, but I admired it and I loved it so much. And I felt like there was so much depth. I also am really drawn towards history, things like that. So it kind of just started off as a love for it. And then also, I felt like I needed to study it a little bit because I was sometimes hosting clients and people at these dinners, and I didn't know anything about a wine list. And so I was like, I need to understand this because I'm not seeing anything that I recognize. So I just want to self study. And when I started to study or explore it, I realized that there was so much about wine that the average person doesn't consume or understand. We're not given the education, but being able to understand really simple things about wine can help you when you are reading a wine list or you're buying wine in stores, especially if you enjoy drinking it. So I was fascinated when I started to learn about it. And I'm the kind of person that even if I'm working in fashion and even if I'm doing everything I can to be super successful in my current job, I'm always learning in other aspects. I'm always a learner. So if I gravitate towards something, I want to learn everything. So I started to go through my formal schooling, my formal WSET, and really properly learn about wine. And so as I was learning, I was sharing it on my social media and on my blog. And so, I mean, if you look all the way back on my social media, I'm pretty sure you're going to see some scary things because as I was learning, I was probably saying things as I was learning.
It's the
And just like,
same thing with the podcast, girl. It just,
yeah,
when you're out there, there are levels to this thing.
there are levels. And, but I'm so grateful that my audience kind of came with me on that journey. And also the champagne houses. I gravitated towards champagne and learning about champagne very early on in my studies. And so I decided when I was sharing this information that I would start to exclusively communicate just about champagne because I was studying about wine and the whole wine, you know, concept, but I really loved champagne. So my communication started to just be about champagne. And then I started to connect with some of the producers in some of the houses because I was talking about them. And so they would acknowledge that I was talking about them. And I was always the kind of person knowing that I was like, okay, I don't know everything I need to know. I would reach out on social media or through email. And I would ask the houses and the producers, hey, I'm about to write an article about your champagne. Can you just verify for me this information is correct? Because a lot of information about
So
wine is
smart.
incorrect on the internet. And
Mm.
so I would always check three sources. I have like, you know, some sources that I would really trust before I really was like, okay, now I'm ready to write. So I'll write my opinion, but I was like, I need to get the backstory. Like, what's this champagne all about? What's this house all about? And that's how I really started connecting with the producers and the houses themselves. And to
Wow.
get their support in your business was huge. So in 2020, obviously we were all stuck indoors. And so I, by that time, had grown a good following and communicating about champagne. And so when I started to see a lot of fashion brands and food brands start doing IG lives, I was like, I bet I could do this. And I reached out to the producers and, of course, was sending them messages about, you know, how's it over there in France? How are you guys during 2020? And they were devastated like we were, and they were really worried about their businesses and their livelihood because at that time in the beginning of 2020, nobody was buying, like nobody was opening crazy bottles of champagne at the beginning of 2020, we were all really conservative about our spending, right? Because we didn't
Yes.
know what was going to happen.
Right.
So the whole world stopped, restaurants closed. So, you know,
Everything.
nobody was buying wine until we were kind of stuck in for a while and realized we maybe we should go through our
With the wine.
cellar cabinets and maybe we should buy some, you know, wine online
Join
just
a
to keep,
wine club
yeah,
even, right? I think I did.
exactly. You know, maybe we should do this to keep ourselves sane a bit. And, you know, and we're not spending money outdoors. So I guess we can spend a little money on what we're bringing in our homes. So I said to them, I said, listen, I want to bring you on my Instagram. I want to do an Instagram live. And I think what we're going to do is we'll find that one bottle of yours that is the most popular. Usually it's the non-vintage brut for every producer or every house that you can easily find online. Um, and we'll drink through that with you. And if you could give us a tour of your
Oh,
estate and tell us your story of your house. So yeah, I started to do that in
what a
2020.
brilliant idea. Nobody
Yeah,
else was doing that. In fact,
nobody,
I don't
yeah,
think I've seen
nobody.
anybody do that.
So nobody else was doing it, but it was starting, right? It was just starting in the wine community. So I loved it so much and I wanted to support and grow it bigger. So what I did is I grabbed my closest kind of other wine communicators that I knew pretty well, and I said, "Hey guys, what if we come up with one source for all of the lives that we're starting to see in the wine community? So
Wow.
everyone can come to this Instagram account and find all the lives that were happening."
Wow.
And for wine, let's say. So the four of us decided to come together and create a platform where, you know, if you wanted to join an IG live and learn about Spanish wine or, you know, Bordeaux or what have you, we would have all the information of the times and how to join and things like that. But it also like helped us create a community for us that were doing it, because, people that maybe didn't know us personally would then know this platform and they would join ours. So it helped grow this sort of um, virtual
Yeah.
tasting is what
Ah,
it was.